Hey guys, welcome to the live Q&A portion of the day. I am here, Devaney Styles, your host, and we have all the panelists here today with us, and we want you to be able to ask any questions that you have. So just to give you guys a breakdown of what the format is for this Q&A portion of the day, there's actually two ways that you can kind of ask your question here. So first off, you can always ask your question in the chat, but second, you can ask our panelists any question by clicking, and I just want to say this correctly, so sorry. You can click the button located below the video player to jump in and ask your question live. So if you guys love that option, we would love for you to jump in live with any of your questions. As we get started with our Q&A portion, we have everybody here with us. And also, you always have the option of adding your question into the chat, and I can ask it for you, and we can kind of get the questions going and ask any of our panelists any specific questions that you have, or if you have something that you want to ask everyone, we can do that too. So we're just going to get started and see if there's anybody out there that wants to ask a question live for us. Go ahead and click in and just hit that button at the bottom. Okay, so we have a live question here. We have Desiree. Hey, Desiree.
Hi, guys. How are you? My question is for Jamie. It's really cool what your company does. I actually never knew something like that exists. So what does that look like for a smaller size brand that's looking to launch maybe like a collection with 10 to 12 pieces in it?
Well, first of all, congrats on, trying to maybe start a collection. A small collection is not small or large. Most collections that come to us are maybe single pieces, like the best fitting pant, the best fitting pull-on pant, the best towel wrap, the best, this, that. 10 pieces is a sizable collection for a first launch for a direct-to-consumer business, which I think is a fair target. Long gone are the days where you have 20 to 30 to 40 styles per collection per delivery. It's a little over skewed. What does it look like with regards to which? Timing, budget, process? Be a little bit more specific for me, because that's a big question.
Yeah, so I know sometimes when you work with manufacturers, you have to have like an MOQ of, let's just say 50 pieces. Do you work with a brand that's looking to produce something at such a smaller level?
There's nothing that's really off limits for us. In fact, I love the small kids on the block because they have to start somewhere, and it doesn't have to be such a big grand explosion of an entrance, right? Not everyone's a YSL or a Versace coming out the door.
Right.
So 50 pieces is not anything to be ashamed of, nor do we shy away from it. It's possible in the marketplace, even offshore manufacturing. Long gone are the days of very large MOQs, because I built a supply chain that was interested in this startup model, which is not so promising in the beginning, but it's as we grow it and as we nurture it, it has legs to stand on. It's a great opportunity for both parts of, the vendor cycle as well as the buyer cycle, in great partnership. And so don't be afraid of small quantities. Start small, think big.
Yeah. So as a brand, if I start working with a company like yours, how long does it take from start to finish to get something out to, my consumers?
Very good question. We're always trying to do so much better with our time and action calendar directives. I like to cut corners where I can. You don't have to see multiple submits as we did in the past. I don't have multiple layers of people like we did in my past corporate environment. I like to say 6 months for development, to be fair, to have the right everything, the right baseline recipe, your fabric base cloth, your fit, your supply chain, your costing directives, your trim developing. You want to develop something that has your own custom hardware. It takes time to build molds and see submits go back and forth and go through testing and performance. So 6 months for development, and then the next 3 months is production development. So I like to say, on a reasonable scope, 9 to 12 months but I
Wow.
lean more towards 9, and I could possibly trim the fat if we're doing 3D technical design instead of traditional 2D technical design, because it cuts out a little bit of the fit work, because it's more computerized software that's really building the pattern work instead of a pattern maker developing a pattern based off of specs. So we can trim the fat, but I urge you to understand that it takes time. I have a blog series on our website that really talks through the fabric to finish process, and it's like a baby. There is a gestation period, and it cannot be healthy if it's premature. It cannot, and it will not. You have one chance to make a first impression, and the other gentlemen on this call who are in the retail space understand that. And so just saying, because you're so excited and you're jumping out of your chair with excitement, you got to wait and be patient for when it's time to open the gates and run in the race. It has to fit well, it has to be priced well, it has to be great quality, not expensive necessarily, but it has to be great,
Wearable.
and because nobody's going to come back and want to buy it. It's going to be a waste of your time and your money. So be patient, take your time, and start slow and small.
Okay, so with that being said, what does a good starting budget look like?
So for, for product development services, to work with a team like us, you're looking at an average per style average, based on a cycle of design all the way through to production, anywhere from 10 to 35,000 per style.
Wow.
It's not including cost of goods. That is the team of people, 4 to 5 head count. You have your own production team, your own designers, your own technical tech spec specialists, experts. So, I've modeled the business off of all of the companies that I listed earlier in my chat when my dog wasn't barking. And but we've streamlined it, and we've thumbnailed it into this little chewable snack pack where people can have their very own team of people managing it and navigating it through this challenging journey.
Yes. Well, thank you for that. Thank you. Nice meeting you.
Nice to meet you too. Keep in touch.
Yes. Yes, I will. Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, so I've got a question from the audience. So this question is for Antonio. So Antonio, how did the merger with DTLR and Sneaker Villa come about?
So DTLR and Sneaker Villa were owned by 2 separate private equity groups. And once they began to discuss a potential merger, we realized that there was great synergies. We only really had overlap in Chicago. We didn't have any other geographical overlap. And there were things that DTLR was very strong at, and things that Villa was strong at that complemented what DTLR was doing. So, like for instance, Villa was great at e-commerce, and we knew on the DTLR side we needed to upgrade our e-commerce experience. And then DTLR on the other side had a more robust in-store business. And so once we got together and and discussed what the opportunities were, it just made sense. It was a great fit.
Nice, thank you. Thanks so much for that. So we have another audience question coming in. This is for Demo. So do you plan on collaborating with any of the original And1 players for a launch?
Yes, there's a lot of different answers to that, but yes, we do plan on collaborating. We have a ESPN 30 for 30 documentary that's planning on dropping June or July. We're just finishing up the final dates with that. But we have a variety of different collabs that we're going to do with the old mixtape players. Some within our retail channels, some within our e-commerce channels, some with other media platforms and other media partners that we're planning to launch with. So yes, we do.
Nice, thank you. And thank you guys for that question from the audience. I'm waiting to see if I get any more coming in, but definitely you guys jump in the chat. We want you to either ask the question in the chat, or if you feel comfortable, we want you to jump in the live. We want to meet you. We want to see you. We want to interact with you. So definitely make sure you click that icon at the bottom below the video player to join, and you can ask your question live. Oh, we got another one from the audience. Antonio, what's going on with DTLR Radio and the record label?
DTLR Radio is, and we discussed this when we chatted earlier, DTLR is all about lifestyle. So DTLR Radio is an extension of the lifestyle that we have. So we have live on-air DJs spinning in the stores, and you can listen online right now, as well as we pop up from different locations, and you'll have live DJs and spaces. So right now, what's big with DTLR Radio is we're trying to merge, we're participating in the merge between radio and gaming. Literally today, most of our marketing team is at a gaming expo, and we're really trying to, all of those synergies there, we're trying to explore those and bring those to life in our space for our consumers.
Cool. Thank you guys for that question from the audience. I had no idea. Thinking of like the gaming aspect, that makes a lot of sense. You guys work all the way around the board. So that's really cool to see what's coming out, coming from that partnership or that as well. So that's exciting.
That's an interesting approach
like,
to
oh,
what
go
you
ahead.
said.
I'm sorry.
I'm saying that's an interesting approach, to have, companies to their marketing department to look into gaming and other industries and how they can actually intensify their in-store experience, their digital experience. Like, that's definitely a gem that the smaller entrepreneur, the smaller brands could start to employ, because a lot of people only look at what's in front of them. If you want to really enhance an experience, you have to look at other things and surrounding things that's around, and to implement those within your own system. So that's pretty cool, man.
Appreciate that. And you have to go where your audience is. So
Facts.
that's, what's always been important to us is if our consumers if they're living, certainly during the pandemic, gaming really had an explosion in our marketplace. And if that's where our consumers are, then we need to be there.
Right. Awesome. Okay, guys, I am encouraging you guys again to jump in live with your questions, but of course we will answer them in the chat as well. Make sure you just hit the icon below the video player to jump in live with us and ask your questions to any of our panelists. I'm going to check out the chat here to see if there's any other questions, and we got one here. This is a question for everyone on the panel. What's the future of brick and mortar? So I guess we can kind of go around the panel from what I see. So I'll start with Jamie, move to Demo, and then we'll end with you, Antonio. So Jamie, if you could start us off, what's the future of brick and mortar?
Well, if I had a crystal ball, I wouldn't be sitting here today, I'll be honest with you, but I'm just teasing. Honestly, like I said in our chat, I think that there's great promise ahead for what's to come out of this whole situation. Obviously, brick and mortar took a very big hit. It will continue to take a very big hit. I think that this is going to stimulate the offset, ratio between the direct-to-consumer model and the store model. Stores are not going away. They're just going to be a different experience, at least for the short term. And again, I'm not a soothsayer, so I don't know. I'm just based on my industry experience and my conversations I've had with other individuals. I'm not afraid of it. I'm excited for it. And I'm excited to see what comes out of it, because people are going to reinvent the whole process. And I'll pass the baton to the other retail specialists on this, because I know they probably have a lot of words to say about it.
Demo, you want to jump in on that one?
Absolutely. Like, you're so right. If we knew that, like, we all would be, in a completely, different position doing other things. But the future of retail really is going to come from, you're going to start to see a lot of brands experimenting with their IP, and trying to get people back on those nostalgic, tunnels. Brands like N1. We have a lot of old IP that we're trying to find, how can we educate this new generation? You have millennials, you have the baby boomers, but a lot of people are trying very hard to hit the Gen X. So you're going to start to see brands experimenting with different IP in digital forms and physical forms within their retail stores to give people an experience to make them want to stay and keep coming back.
Agreed. That's exactly what I was going to say. The key to surviving and thriving at brick and mortar is experience. It always has been. And that's what at DTLR, that's one of those things that separates us is we have an authentic experience for our consumers when you shop in our stores. And our brick and mortar business continues to be successful because of that. You have to give the customers a reason to shop with you. You have to give them an atmosphere that they're comfortable shopping in. And if they want to be in that space, then they'll continue to go there. And we're talking about fashion right now, and I'm just going to give my personal opinion. There's something lost when you can't touch the piece goods, when you can't see the fit of a garment, and you're never going to be able to do those things. There's plenty of technology, and it's great, and we participate in it, but you're never going to have that true experience without being in person and having that buy now, wear now excitement that you get when you step into a retail store.
I don't think people understand how difficult that is. Like, because of the fact, like, you understand your East market is completely different than your market out West. That's completely different than your market in the Midwest. So when you talk about experiences, it's not just saying, okay, what experience we're going to do. That, like, people actually have to, like, you know, people like Antonio and people like Jamie, we have to figure out from a subcategory and a sub-market standpoint, what is the best experience for that. People eat ribs in the Midwest, but people eat salads on the East Coast. So, like, how does that go in with your store? This store is next to my store here versus my store is located there. It gets, you have to keep diving down to really hone out that experience and see what's best for the actual end user in that territory.
Exactly. There's no shortcuts. You got to be in the community, and you need to understand what they want, because they can smell a fake. If you try to participate and you're not authentic to the space, then you might get them once, but they won't return to you. They're going to go. The loyalty is always going to lie with the authentic retailers. So that's the key.
And to close, I think the experience conversation is really the key point. You know, think about what we're all coming off of. People are afraid right now, right? You know, people are not leaving their homes, not leaving their little bubbles. You know, it's going to take a long time for people to feel confident to do things outside of just even going to the supermarket, you know, let alone going in to find the prom dress for next year, or the wedding dress, or the bridesmaid outfit, or the groom. So I think that there's going to be they're going to have to be drawn in a different way. You know, it's going to be, I think, a lot more pop and circumstance in the retail place, you know, to draw people in, but also in a safe way that they can feel comfortable and build confidence again. I think that's a big call out.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think right now it's definitely another layer added on to the experience, not only like catching them and getting them involved, but also the layer of safety. Everybody needs to feel comfortable in that space as they're moving back into, you know, shopping in stores and things like that. So thank you guys so much for all of your perspectives on that. I appreciate it. We have another question that came in. This question is specifically for Jamie. And Antonio, we kind of touched on it a little bit earlier. So if you have anything to add, this question is, what are your thoughts about fast fashion? This for Jamie.
Well, it's leading the globe right now. I mean, people are fast consumers. They want it now, yesterday, right? And I think, again, that's a generational thing. I'm not a retail expert, but when it comes to it, I think it's about, I'm about the fundamentals of product development. And so whether it's a cheap and cheerful cotton twill, it can still be made nice and feel valuable to someone at, $29 or $129. So I think the fast fashion model experiences where, people want to feel on trend, and they want it, they want something that's pop culture induced or social media influenced. And they all just, it's a very homogenous kind of thing. Everybody's kind of starting to look alike and wear these same outfits. And it's a very trend, visual trend life that we're living right now. Whereas, I'm not going to, declare my age, but back when I was growing up, you actually physically had to go to a mall and had to open up 17 magazine or one of those magazines to see, what a celebrity of the time was wearing, and kind of build your fashion sense and understand, now, so I have strong feelings about it because I think it's an opportunity for people to gain access, but I also have strong feelings about it because it's dilution. And so I think that there's something to be said about the preservation of fashion, and to have a very high level of detail and execution, and have people gain access where it doesn't have to be on every person on the street corner, a little more exclusivity.
Exactly.
And I'll add one more thing. I think it's about balance. Fast fashion isn't going anywhere, and there's going to be places and times when in everyone's wardrobe, fast fashion is appropriate, but no one wants to wear fast fashion exclusively. They're still going to want to have their go-to sneakers or their go-to piece, and maybe their jean or maybe their t-shirt or something's fast fashion, but they want to mix that with some quality and some brands that that have the quality that they want, but also have the cachet that they want. So I think today, I'll say this: our younger consumers do a great job of curating what that looks like from high end to fast fashion, and that's what it's all about. It's fast fashion won't take over everything. It's just going to be a piece of the mix.
Piggybacking off of that, basically, brands have to stay true to what they do. So, and not jumping on all of these trends, or not just trying to put something out in the market that every other brand is doing, or just because they visually see it. I think if, like what you said, Antonio, brands that stay true to their authentic roots and to their heritage are going to see more. That's going to carve out that exclusivity market, because they're doing what's they're supposed to do, and they're not trying to be like everyone else, which is going to ultimately bring out that exclusivity bubble.
Right. Thank you, guys. We have another question in the chat. This one is for Demo. How does a local designer get an opportunity to design merch for AMP1?
Yeah, really, so there's a few different things to that. It's not, somebody told me this a long time ago, it's not what you know, it's who you know, but it's what you know that backs up who you know. That's one. And then number two is just having something like, if we're going to work with someone, I'm looking at that person and say, like, what do they have that no one else has? What about them is different? So having some type of identity that is unique to yourself, that is the best way to go. We look at influencers all day. We look at brand ambassadors all day. We look at athletes all day. If they don't have that one unique it factor for them, they're not going to get anywhere. So the best advice to that is just have something that is totally unique, that is for you. Going back to IP, what is your IP? People, brands, companies, they want to invest in IP. What can you have that no one else has?
Important. Yes. Anybody want to jump in on that? Well, I think we kind of touched on that. The exclusivity conversation is kind of like flowing through this whole Q&A. But I actually have another question that came in for you again, Demo. Does AMP1 have any plans to relaunch a higher end collection of the brand?
Absolutely. So like, that's kind of like, what we're doing now. Majority of our business is in the downstairs with the Walmart and in the mid-tier level. So you're talking about Models, you're talking about all of those mid-tier levels. But the best part about being a heritage brand, our downstairs and mid-tier business brings in 90% of our revenue. You're talking about $600 million worth of sales, being the largest basketball short, distributor, actually selling the largest, the most shorts, selling the most basketballs. So we're crafting those and actually trying to build up a plan that is authentic for our upstairs brand. It's like not just a, hey, you guys are trying to do something different, but hey, you're expanding your product line with the right partners, the right retailers, and the right story behind that. So absolutely, we are planning to build up an upstairs line. And for us as a heritage brand, we have an open door to boutiques, which gives us a different type of mentality that we have to necessarily approach it with. So you'll start to see a lot more things with high-end boutiques, more of the 1 of 10, the 1 of 20s, extremely rare, extremely limited at some of these very big high-end boutiques.
Nice. We are on the lookout for that. That's super exciting for the future.
It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, that sounds great. Okay, so we have some questions flowing in. Thank you guys for dropping questions into the chat. Always remember, you can hop in with the live question as well. This next question is for everyone. Have you intertwined social justice initiatives within your platform? Whoever wants to kind of jump in there, we can get started.
I'll jump in. Absolutely. We have and I'll be 100% transparent. That was not an easy thing that necessarily we had to do. And that was something, those are things that was not done just because of what happened or what was going on. We literally started from, the street ball court. We literally started with hip hop, breaking Snoop Dogg's records, breaking a lot of old school artist records. So we actually felt something when things happen. So we had to get very creative and determine how can we bring this up without necessarily complaining or without it sounding like you're pointing fingers, and start to be a brand that starts to find solutions to things. So we did that. It was not an easy process. It's extremely hard. Anytime where you have hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars attached to something, you have to be careful what you say. At the end of the day, fashion is a business, but there are things that take precedent over that. So absolutely, we did do that. It was not easy. I don't suggest anyone just go out and do that, put that into their brand strategy or their brand plan if they're not authentic about that, if they're not actually going to support that down to what you say, how you show up in store, how you show up socially, how you show up digitally, everywhere. If you're not 100% down, don't incorporate that. Don't try to force it. It has to be something that's very authentic, and it's something that you don't have to speak for everyone when you do that. You can literally find ways within your brand that your brand can start to highlight, bring awareness, and provide solutions to things.
Perfect.
Great, I'll jump in. So for DTLR, this isn't a new narrative for us because we're in the communities. We've seen this happening. And especially even being based in Maryland, we had the same experience in Baltimore a few years ago. So what we've done as a company is it's how do we move this narrative forward? And so we participate in constructive ways because there is some separation. It's natural to have anger because there's things that have happened that are just unjust. But we can't necessarily feed the anger, but we can feed the constructive ways to move forward. I mentioned a voting initiative earlier because that is one of the ways that you can influence social justice is by participating in the voting process. So we certainly help there. And I think, especially when you think about places like Atlanta, it certainly helped with everything going on in Georgia during the election to be registering to vote at the Trap Museum on multiple occasions, to be going in the communities and to be giving them an opportunity to learn more. And again, we're not supporting any particular political party because that's not appropriate for our business, but we give them the information and we help them make the decisions that can make a change. And we've done many other things. We've supported actual on the ground local events. And we've also had, and this is pre-pandemic. I can recall when we had a program where there was police officers talking to young folks and having an honest dialogue, not from a lecturing standpoint, Black men talking to Black men about the things that needed to be aired out so that everybody could be stronger and understand better moving forward. So I'm just throwing out some of the things we've done. We have a dedicated team. They're always in this space and they're always working on these things. That was true a decade ago. That will be true a decade from now.
Yes.
And to chime in on this end, I'm not in the retail sector, so my access into the community is uniquely different than Demo and Antonio. However, as a women-owned business and as a company that stands behind inclusion and diversity, I feel very strongly about the movement, and we've been very active in our social access as our brand in communicating through our feelings on being, building accessibility for all parties, for all communities. We're globally set up, so we work with countries, ethnicities, languages and skin colors of all shapes and sizes. You know, at one point in my company, I was the only person not of color in my own company. And it was a beautiful thing to be a part of. And that's what I stand for. And so, you know, obviously the experience of this summer was a very painful experience for everybody. And I think for my personal professional purposes, it's to be educated and to educate, because I'm not from the community. So that for us as a company is what we've been trying to parlay through our social communications. And I think we've done a fine job of that, highlighting and building and a spotlight for be it, you know, women of color designers or suppliers or vendors or fashion or you know, historical figures that have influenced our market. And so I feel that it's impacted us in a great way, in such a small way, but I'm hopeful that that vibration continues to spread through, and obviously we can come out of this with a great resolution and a great, you know, a great future ahead, where we don't have to have these conversations like we are right now, because they're extraordinarily painful.
Thank you guys so much. I think that that was a great way to kind of wrap up our Q&A portion of the day. Thank you all individually. Thank you, Jamie, Antonio, and Demo for answering all of our questions and being here with us today. This is the end of the Q&A portion. I think the last thing that I'd love to do really quickly is just everybody, can we give a last way to reach out to everyone, or a way for everyone to connect with you, just to kind of wrap it up, if they have any other questions that they might not have gotten to ask you guys?
Sure, I'll chime in first. Again, thank you for the opportunity. This was a really wonderful experience. I apologize for the dog incident, but the best way to reach out is through our website, info@fabrictofinish.com, or on social media for those people that are more comfortable with the whole DM phenomenon. But we look forward to hearing from you, and I wish everybody a great, healthy duration of this whole life experience that we're going through right now.
Great. You can find us at detailart.com or on social media, DTLR Villa on Instagram and on Twitter, and DTLR Lifestyle on Instagram. My personal Instagram is Antonio G. Gray. And if you DM me, I'll be glad to respond.
Absolutely. And then I just want to say thank you guys. This was a great Q&A. Like, I love, you know, talking with like minds and just being able to just explore deeper. So I really appreciate that. I personally have something special for all of you guys. Something that is very, very near and dear, something I think that will value you guys, and really be something, you know, just to show you how thankful I am of that. So I will be sending that over to you guys. But personally, you can find me at An1Demo on Instagram, or if you want to reach out to An1, you can. We're also accessible there at An1, and then just hit us up. I think just hit us up, just An1Demo or An1.
Thank you guys so much. All right, so we're gonna wrap this up. Thank you so much again. I think today was a great day. We got so much information. We got to connect with each other. Like Demo said, I love connecting with like minds. And I personally love the fashion industry. So it was great to hear from all of you guys. We appreciate everything that you've said today. And thank you so much. And audience, make sure you reach out if you have anything else that you want to ask any of them. Everybody is very open to just touching base with you guys and answering any questions. Thank you. I'm going to say bye.
Bye, everyone.